Ever feel like you're juggling chainsaws while riding a unicycle? You know that feeling of being constantly on edge, struggling to keep all the balls in the air, and yet somehow still feeling like you're falling behind? I know I have.
Yeah.
For years, I thought it was just my personality. Maybe I was just wired a little differently. But what if it's more than that? What if those feelings of overwhelm, those missed deadlines, and that constant sense of I should be doing more are actually signs of something deeper?
It's fascinating how often we dismiss those struggles as personal shortcomings, especially us women. We're conditioned to be the masters of multitasking, the queens of keeping it all together. But what if those expectations are actually masking a neurodevelopmental condition that affects millions of adults, ADHD?
Okay, I'm intrigued. We're not just talking about the stereotypical image of a hyperactive child bouncing off the walls, are we? Because honestly, that never really resonated with me.
Wait, not at all. ADHD in adults, particularly women, often presents in much more subtle ways. It's less about outward hyperactivity and more about internal chaos. Think inattention, disorganization, emotional dysregulation. It's like having a brain that's constantly running on a treadmill, struggling to keep up with the demands of everyday life.
So like that unicycle analogy, except inside my head, that actually explains a lot. I always felt like I was trying to run a marathon with my mental brakes on.
Exactly. And what's even more concerning is that there's a whole generation of women who've been grappling with these struggles without ever realizing they could be linked to ADHD. They've been misdiagnosed, mistreated, or simply told to try harder, never understanding why they couldn't seem to get it together.
That's heartbreaking, especially considering there are effective ways to manage ADHD and live a fulfilling life. But before we dive into solutions, let's unpack the science a bit. You mentioned this idea of a sleepy brain.
Right.
What exactly does that mean, and how does it relate to ADHD?
Think of your brain like an orchestra, with the prefrontal cortex, or PFC, as the conductor. The PFC is your brain's executive control center, responsible for things like attention, planning, impulse control, and emotional regulation. It's like the maestro ensuring all the different sections of the orchestra are playing in harmony.
So in a neurotypical brain, the conductor keeps everything running smoothly.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But in an ADHD brain, it's like the conductor is constantly battling a swarm of bees.
Okay.
There's reduced blood flow and activity in the PFC, leading to this sleepy brain phenomenon. And to make matters worse, there are also imbalances in key neurotransmitters like dopamine and norepinephrine, which further disrupt the brain's ability to focus and regulate emotions.
Okay, so it's not just a matter of willpower or motivation. There's a real physiological basis for these struggles. But here's the thing we often hear about the challenges of ADHD. But what about the strengths? Is there another side to this coin?
Absolutely. It's important to remember that the ADHD brain, while wired differently, is not broken. In fact, many of the traits we associate with ADHD can actually be superpowers when channeled effectively.
Superpowers. Now we're talking. Tell me more.
Think about it, that hyperfocus you experience when you're truly engaged in something you love. That's an incredible asset, that ability to think outside the box, to make unconventional connections, to see the world from a different perspective. That's the fuel for creativity and innovation. And that boundless energy and enthusiasm, that can be contagious, inspiring others to action.
So it's about reframing the narrative. Instead of viewing ADHD solely as a deficit, we can start to see it as a different way of thinking, a way of being in the world that can bring unique advantages.
Exactly. There's a fascinating theory called the hunter versus farmer hypothesis that suggests ADHD traits might have actually been evolutionarily advantageous in certain contexts. Imagine a hunter-gatherer society where those with heightened awareness, impulsivity, and adaptability, traits we now associate with ADHD, would have been essential for survival. They would have been the ones who spotted the prey, first reacted quickly to danger, and adapted to changing environments with ease.
That's a really interesting perspective. Makes me wonder if maybe our modern structured world isn't always the best fit for these hunter brains.
It's definitely something to consider. And it highlights the importance of finding environments and roles that allow those strengths to flourish.
So it's about understanding your own unique brain wiring and finding ways to make it work for you, not against you. But let's get back to those who might be struggling, feeling like their brain is betraying them. If adult ADHD can manifest in such subtle ways, how can we even recognize it? What are some signs that might indicate something deeper is going on?
Well, you might be surprised to learn that hyperfocus, the ability to intensely zero in on a captivating task, can actually be a sign of ADHD. It's that flip side of the coin where other tasks, especially those less stimulating, become almost impossible to tackle.
Wait, so being able to hyperfocus is a potential red flag. That seems counterintuitive.
It is, and it speaks to the complexity of ADHD. It's not just about an inability to focus. It's about an inability to regulate that focus. Think of it like a spotlight that's either blindingly bright or completely off. There's no dimmer switch.
That's a great analogy. And it makes me wonder if that's why I can spend hours engrossed in a project I'm passionate about, but struggle to pay attention during a meeting that feels irrelevant.
It's very possible. And
Yep.
here's another sign that often gets overlooked, especially in women. Emotional dysregulation. Those intense mood swings, the difficulty controlling impulses, the heightened sensitivity to rejection. These are all common experiences for adults with ADHD. Remember that prefrontal cortex, the conductor of the orchestra, is also responsible for emotional regulation. And when it's not functioning optimally, emotions can feel like a roller coaster ride.
That makes perfect sense. It's like your brain is working overtime just to keep up with basic tasks, leaving little energy for emotional regulation.
Exactly. And this can have a significant impact on relationships, both personal and professional. Imagine trying to navigate the nuances of communication and intimacy when your emotions are constantly on high alert. It can be exhausting and incredibly frustrating for everyone involved.
That's a great point, and it leads us to another surprising sign of ADHD: difficulty with time management. We've all experienced those moments where time seems to slip away. But for individuals with ADHD, this can be a chronic struggle.
Absolutely. It's called time blindness, and it's like having an internal clock that runs a bit differently. You might underestimate how long tasks will take, lose track of time entirely, or struggle to meet deadlines even when you're trying your best.
Time blindness. I love that term. It perfectly describes that feeling of constantly playing catch up, like you're always one step behind. And it explains why I can never seem to accurately estimate how long it will take me to get ready in the morning.
And here's another one that might resonate with a lot of our listeners, especially those high-achieving women who seem to have it all together.
Yeah.
You might be successful on paper, juggling multiple responsibilities and appearing to effortlessly navigate life's demands, but internally, you're feeling completely scattered and overwhelmed.
Ah, the classic keeping it all together on the outside while falling apart on the inside scenario.
Yeah.
I know that feeling all too well.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that be more of an anxiety issue?
It's easy to misinterpret those feelings as anxiety, and in fact, many women with ADHD are misdiagnosed with anxiety disorders. But what's often happening is that they're constantly masking their struggles, trying to meet those societal expectations of perfection and control.
So they're putting on a brave face, but behind the scenes, their brain is in overdrive, trying to keep up with the demands they've placed on themselves. And all of this can lead to another common symptom, being highly self-critical.
You hit the nail on the head. That constant negative self-talk, the feeling of never being good enough, the relentless self-doubt, these can be incredibly debilitating for individuals with ADHD. It's like they're holding themselves to an impossible standard, comparing their internal experience to everyone else's seemingly effortless outward presentation.
That's so insightful and honestly so relatable. I can't tell you how many times I've berated myself for not being more organized, more focused, more put together. But if these struggles are rooted in a neurodevelopmental condition, it changes the entire conversation, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It's about understanding that these aren't character flaws or signs of weakness. They're symptoms of a very real, very treatable condition. And the more we understand about ADHD, the better equipped we'll be to recognize it, support those who are struggling, and advocate for more effective treatment options.
This is also eye-opening. I'm already starting to see things in a new light, and I bet many of our listeners are too. But here's the million-dollar question. If adult ADHD is so prevalent, why is it so often underdiagnosed, especially in women?
That's a great question, and it really gets to the heart of why so many women have been struggling silently for years. For decades, ADHD was viewed through a very narrow lens. That stereotypical image of the hyperactive boy we talked about earlier. This led to a significant underdiagnosis of the inattentive presentation of ADHD, which is more common in girls and women.
So it's not that girls and women aren't experiencing ADHD, it's that their symptoms are often different, less obvious, and therefore easily missed.
Precisely. And to make matters worse, those internalizing symptoms we talked about earlier, those feelings of overwhelm, anxiety, and self-doubt are often misinterpreted as something else entirely. Anxiety disorders, depression, even personality disorders are common misdiagnoses.
It's heartbreaking to think of all the women who've been misdiagnosed and mistreated for conditions they may not even have. What can be done to change this? How can we start recognizing and addressing adult ADHD more effectively, especially in women?
It starts with raising awareness. We need to challenge those outdated stereotypes and recognize that ADHD can manifest in many different ways, especially in women. And we need to educate healthcare providers so they can accurately identify and diagnose adult ADHD regardless of how it presents.
So it's about expanding our understanding of ADHD and recognizing that it's not a one-size-fits-all condition.
Yeah.
But what about the women who've been struggling for years, maybe bouncing from doctor to doctor, never finding the answers they're looking for? What advice would you give them?
First and foremost, advocate for yourself. If you suspect you might have ADHD, don't hesitate to seek a second opinion from a qualified professional who specializes in adult ADHD.
Finding the right expert is key, isn't it? It's not enough to see any mental health professional. You need someone who truly understands the nuances of adult ADHD, especially as it presents in women.
Absolutely. And when you do find that expert, be prepared to share your experiences openly and honestly. Describe your symptoms in detail, providing specific examples of how they impact your daily life. Remember, you are the expert on your own experience.
That's so empowering. It's about taking ownership of your health and your well-being. But getting a diagnosis can feel like a huge hurdle to overcome. Once you have that diagnosis, what comes next? What can be done to manage adult ADHD? Are there effective treatment options and strategies that can help?
Absolutely. And that's where things get really exciting. There's so much you can do to take control and live a fulfilling life, even with ADHD.
I love that, taking control. It's about empowerment, not limitations.
Exactly. And it starts with understanding that ADHD is a treatable condition. There are evidence-based strategies that can help you manage your symptoms, harness your strengths, and create a life that aligns with your unique needs and aspirations. It's like having a toolbox full of different options, and the key is finding the right combination that works for you. There's no one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to managing ADHD.
So let's open that toolbox and explore some of these strategies. Where do we even begin?
One of the most powerful things you can do is make some lifestyle modifications. We're talking about things like regular exercise, which can be like rocket fuel for the ADHD brain.
I've heard that exercise is good for everyone. But how does it specifically benefit someone with ADHD?
It all comes back to those crucial neurotransmitters we talked about earlier, dopamine and norepinephrine. Exercise boosts their levels, which can do wonders for focus, attention, and mood. Plus, it helps reduce stress, improve sleep quality, and just generally makes you feel healthier overall.
So we're not just talking mental benefits here. There are physical benefits as well. Sign me up. But let's be realistic. I'm not suddenly going to become a marathon runner.
And you don't have to. The good news is that even moderate intensity exercise like brisk walking, swimming, or dancing can make a significant difference. The key is to find activities you genuinely enjoy so you're more likely to stick with them.
That makes sense. It's about finding that sweet spot where movement feels good and becomes a sustainable part of your routine.
What about sleep? I'm a bit of a night owl myself. Always felt like I got my best work done late at night. While burning the midnight oil might work for some. Getting enough sleep is absolutely crucial for everyone, but it's especially important for individuals with ADHD. Research has shown that sleep deprivation can actually worsen ADHD symptoms. It's like adding fuel to the fire.
That makes sense. It explains why I feel so scattered and out of sorts when I'm sleep deprived. Like my brain is running on fumes.
Exactly. Yeah. When you're sleep deprived, it's like that conductor in your brain, the prefrontal cortex, is struggling to keep the orchestra in tune. Everything feels more difficult, more overwhelming.
So how do we break that cycle? What are some practical tips for improving sleep quality, especially for those of us with ADHD?
Establishing a regular sleep schedule is a great place to start. Try to go to bed and wake up around the same time each day, even on weekends. This helps regulate your body's natural sleep-wake cycle.
That makes sense, but it's easier said than done right. I always feel like there's just not enough time in the day.
I hear you. Time management is definitely a challenge for many people with ADHD, but that's a topic we'll delve into a bit later. For now, let's focus on getting that sleep routine in check. Creating a relaxing bedtime routine can be incredibly helpful. Think warm bath, a calming book, or some gentle stretching. Anything that signals to your brain that it's time to wind down.
I could definitely use some of that wind down time in my life. It sounds like self-care is a key part of managing ADHD.
Absolutely. Taking care of your physical health is foundational to managing ADHD. We've talked about exercise and sleep, but let's not forget about nutrition. Just like your car needs the right fuel to run smoothly, your brain needs the right nutrients to function optimally.
Okay, so what does a brain-boosting diet for ADHD look like? Give us the inside scoop.
The focus should be on whole, unprocessed foods. Think fruits, vegetables, lean protein, whole grains, and healthy fats. These foods provide the vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants your brain needs to thrive.
It's about giving your brain the building blocks it needs to function at its best. No more surviving on coffee and takeout.
Exactly. And just as important as what you eat is what you avoid. Refined carbohydrates and added sugars can wreak havoc on your blood sugar levels, leading to those energy spikes and crashes that can worsen ADHD symptoms.
So it's about finding that balance, nourishing your brain with healthy foods, and limiting those tempting sugary treats that can send your focus into a tailspin. But let's get real. We live in a world that's constantly demanding our attention. Even with a good diet, enough sleep, and regular exercise, how do we manage those executive function challenges, that feeling of being overwhelmed by all the things we need to get done?
That's where organizational strategies come in. These are techniques designed to structure your environment and your time in a way that supports your brain's natural tendencies. It's about working with your brain, not against it.
Okay, I'm all ears. Give me those ADHD-friendly organizational hacks.
One of the simplest yet most effective strategies is using a planner or calendar. Whether it's a paper planner, a digital calendar, or a combination of both, having a central place to track appointments, deadlines, and to-do lists can be a game changer.
It's like an external brain helping you stay organized and on track. I've tried using planners in the past, but I always end up abandoning them after a few weeks. Any tips for making them actually work?
Absolutely. The key is to find a system that fits your needs and your style. Don't be afraid to experiment until you find what works best for you. Some people thrive with detailed daily schedules, while others prefer a more flexible approach.
So it's about personalization, finding the planner that speaks to your soul. What about those big, overwhelming tasks that seem impossible to even start?
Breaking them down into smaller, more manageable steps can be incredibly helpful. Remember that elephant analogy, you don't have to eat the whole thing at once.
One bite at a time, right? I can definitely get behind that approach. But sometimes even small tasks can feel daunting.
That's where prioritizing comes in. Once you've broken down those tasks, ask yourself, what's the most important thing I need to accomplish today? What can wait until tomorrow? This helps you focus your energy where it matters most.
So it's not just about getting things done, it's about getting the right things done. I like that. What other strategies can help us conquer that feeling of overwhelm?
Creating routines can be incredibly helpful for individuals with ADHD. Having consistent daily routines for things like waking up, getting ready, working, and winding down can create a sense of structure and predictability that reduces overwhelm and improves focus.
It's like building in those autopilot moments so your brain doesn't have to work so hard to make decisions all the time. I could definitely see how that would be helpful.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of minimizing clutter. A cluttered environment can be visually distracting and overwhelming for anyone, but especially for those with ADHD. It's like having those distracting horns blaring in your physical environment, making it even harder to focus.
So true. I feel my anxiety levels rise just thinking about my messy desk.
Taking the time to declutter your workspace, your home, even your digital spaces can create a sense of calm and order that can help you think more clearly and focus more effectively.
It's amazing how our physical environment can have such a profound impact on our mental state. Are there any other organizational strategies you recommend?
For those who are visually oriented, using visual reminders can be incredibly helpful. Think sticky notes, whiteboards, or color-coded systems. Anything that helps bring those mental reminders out into the physical world where they're more visible and harder to ignore.
It's like giving your brain a visual roadmap to follow.
Precisely. And let's not forget about all the amazing tools and resources available through technology. There are countless apps and programs designed specifically to help with organization, time management, and focus.
It's like having a whole arsenal of digital tools at your fingertips ready to support your brain's natural tendencies.
Exactly. The key is to experiment and find what works best for you. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. It's about personalization, finding the strategies that fit your unique brain and lifestyle.
So it's about embracing that hunter brain and finding ways to make it thrive in a world that's often designed for farmers. But what about those moments when organization just isn't enough? What about those times when your mind feels like a runaway train jumping from one thought to the next, unable to stay on track?
That's where cognitive strategies come into play. These are mental techniques that can help you train your brain to focus better, manage distractions, and regulate emotions more effectively. It's like building mental muscle, strengthening those areas of the brain that are often weaker in individuals with ADHD.
Cognitive strategies. It sounds almost like mental martial arts, training your brain to be more focused and resilient. What are some of these techniques, and how can we start incorporating them into our daily lives?
One of the most powerful cognitive strategies, and one we've touched on briefly before, is mindfulness meditation. It's all about developing a greater awareness of your thoughts, feelings, and sensations in the present moment without judgment. You're not trying to empty your mind or stop your thoughts, that's nearly impossible, but rather observe them without getting swept away by them.
So it's like creating a space between yourself and your thoughts, almost like hitting the pause button on that runaway train.
That's a great way to put it. And research has shown that regular mindfulness practice can actually change the structure and function of the brain, particularly in areas related to attention, focus, and emotional regulation. It's like strengthening those mental muscles, giving your brain the tools it needs to stay grounded amidst the chaos.
That's incredible. So we're not just talking about a temporary sense of calm. We're talking about actual lasting changes in the brain. Sign me up. But I have to admit, meditation has always felt a bit intimidating. Like I need to be sitting on a mountaintop chanting in a robe.
I understand that misconception, but the beauty of mindfulness is that it's accessible to everyone. You don't need any special equipment or training. You can simply find a comfortable spot, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. Even just a few minutes a day can make a difference.
That's reassuring to hear. And there are plenty of guided meditation apps and resources available for those of us who are new to the practice, right?
Absolutely. There's a whole world of mindfulness resources out there just waiting to be explored. But mindfulness isn't the only tool in our cognitive arsenal. Another incredibly effective technique is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT.
CBT, that's a familiar term. I know it's used for a variety of mental health challenges. But how does it specifically address the thought patterns and behaviors associated with ADHD?
CBT is all about identifying and challenging those negative, unhelpful thoughts that can fuel our struggles with ADHD. It's about recognizing those thought patterns and learning to reframe them in a more positive, productive way.
So instead of berating myself for forgetting an appointment, for example, I might try to understand the underlying reasons for that forgetfulness and develop strategies to prevent it from happening again.
Exactly. And it's not just about changing thoughts, it's also about changing behaviors. CBT therapists often work with clients to develop specific action plans for managing ADHD symptoms such as procrastination, disorganization, or impulsivity.
So it's a very practical, action-oriented approach, which makes sense for those of us with ADHD who often struggle to translate those aha moments into tangible changes.
It's all about taking those insights and turning them into actionable steps that lead to real lasting change. And it's important to note that CBT isn't just for individuals with ADHD. It's a widely used and highly effective therapy for a range of mental health challenges.
So another valuable tool to add to our mental health toolbox. This is all so incredibly empowering. It feels like we're taking back control, shifting the narrative from limitations to possibilities. But before we wrap up this deep dive, there's one more area I'd love to explore: the impact of ADHD on relationships. We've talked about how it affects our inner world, but how does it play out in our interactions with others?
That's such an important aspect, and it's often overlooked. ADHD can affect all kinds of relationships: romantic partnerships, friendships, family dynamics, even interactions at work. Imagine trying to build intimacy and connection with a partner when you're constantly battling inattention, impulsivity, and emotional dysregulation. It can be incredibly difficult.
I can imagine. It's like trying to build a house on a foundation of shifting sand.
Exactly. For example, someone with ADHD might struggle to listen attentively during conversations, leading to misunderstandings and hurt feelings. They might forget important dates or anniversaries, which can be perceived as a lack of caring. And those impulsive tendencies can also create conflict. Saying things without thinking, making rash decisions, or interrupting constantly can put a strain on any relationship.
It's almost like those executive function challenges we talked about earlier are playing out on a relational level. And when you add in emotional dysregulation, it's easy to see how things can quickly spiral out of control.
It's a recipe for miscommunication and hurt feelings. But the good news is there are ways to navigate these challenges and build stronger, healthier relationships, even with ADHD.
Okay, I'm all ears. Give us those relationship-saving tips.
First and foremost, education is key. Both partners need to understand ADHD and its impact on the relationship. It's about moving beyond blame and judgment and fostering a sense of empathy and understanding.
So it's about creating a shared understanding of the challenges and working together to find solutions. But education alone isn't enough, is it?
You're right. Open and honest communication is crucial. Create a safe space for each other to express your feelings, needs, and challenges. Practice active listening, truly engaging with what your partner is saying, not just waiting for your turn to talk.
It's about putting down those metaphorical distractions, those internal monologues, those to-do lists running through our heads, and truly being present with the person in front of us.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of external support. Couples therapy with a therapist who specializes in ADHD can provide invaluable guidance and tools for navigating these challenges.
So it's about seeking professional help when you need it. But these principles of understanding communication and support apply to all kinds of relationships, don't they?
Absolutely. Whether it's friendships, family relationships, or even workplace dynamics, the same principles hold true. Be open about your ADHD and how it affects you. Set realistic expectations. And remember that clear communication and mutual respect are the foundation of any healthy relationship.
This has been such an insightful and empowering conversation. I feel like we've just scratched the surface of this fascinating topic, but I'm already walking away with a renewed sense of hope and possibility. What are some key takeaways you want our listeners to remember as we wrap up this deep dive?
First and foremost, remember that you are not alone. Millions of adults are navigating the world with ADHD, and many are not just surviving, but thriving. There is a wealth of resources available, a whole community ready to support you. Reach out, connect, and learn from others who understand what you're going through.
There's power in shared experiences and knowing that you're not the only ones struggling with these challenges.
And remember that ADHD is not a life sentence. It's a different way of being in the world, a way of being that comes with both challenges and incredible strengths. It's about finding the right balance, the right strategies, and the right support to help you navigate those challenges and harness those strengths.
It's about embracing your neurodiversity and recognizing that there's no one right way to think or be in the world.
Exactly. And remember, you are capable of amazing things. Don't let ADHD define you or limit your potential. You have the power to create a life that is fulfilling, meaningful, and authentically you.
What an inspiring message to end on. It's about taking ownership of our ADHD, understanding our unique brain wiring, and finding ways to make it work for us, not against us.
And remember, the journey doesn't end here. There's always more to learn, more to explore, and more ways to grow. Keep diving deep, keep seeking knowledge, and keep embracing the incredible power of your unique brain.
This has been an incredible deep dive into the world of adult ADHD. We've covered so much ground, from the science of the brain to the impact on relationships, and I hope you, our listeners, are walking away feeling empowered and inspired to take control of your ADHD journey. Remember, you are not alone and you are capable of amazing things. Thanks for joining us.